For my birthday this spring, I decided to book myself a makeover at the Sephora that's down the street from the church. My style is what would normally be called low femme in the queer community. In other words, I normally wear mascara and maybe like a little bit more makeup most days, but my usual routine takes about 5 minutes, not 4 hours like Cookie's. I like wearing skirts and dresses and heels, but most days I wear pants and low heels or flats. I like jewelry, but I mostly wear a few sentimental pieces that aren't too flashy and kind of go with everything. On a day-to-day basis, this is basically who I am. It's basically who I've always been. And yet I simultaneously love to dress up. This is probably in part from my family. My mother is here with us today. Our family is like really, we would do Halloween up when I was a kid and continue to. And I still have fantasies of someday becoming actually high femme, someone who always looks fabulous from her full face of immaculate makeup down to her incredible heels. Somebody like Cookie. You are my dream for who I want to be. How good is it to have Cookie back, everybody? For those of you who are newer to our community, Cookie and her alter ego, Corey, have been part of our spiritual and musical community here on and off for, I don't know, 10 years, something like that? Probably longer, actually, 15 years. So it's such a treat. This is the first time we're back since the pandemic, and we're thrilled. Okay, so Cookie is who I want to be. Obviously, I am who I am, and I'm okay with that, too. But after discovering that one of my friends from teenage UU community had grown up to become a famous drag queen and a contestant on RuPaul's Drag Race, I had become addicted to watching that show over the past year. Does anyone watch RuPaul's Drag Race? Yeah, several of us are like really into it, and other people maybe haven't seen it. When I went to go get my birthday makeover, I thought it would be fun to go high femme. I wanted to look like a drag queen, or at least I wanted to look like a drag queen had done my makeup. And what I got was probably the next best thing. A drag queen's boyfriend happened to be the makeup artist that day, and so he did my makeup. And though we talked a lot about the drag scene in Philadelphia and RuPaul's Drag Race, because he was also a big fan, I was too cowardly to really communicate my desire for super dramatic high femme makeup. I left Sephora that day with a great new red lipstick, which I'm wearing now. Thank you, Rihanna and Fenty Beauty. But I otherwise looked like I sort of normally do. That day, I failed to take the lesson that drag is teaching me, that I can play with my gender and still be myself and learn something about the holy in the process. One of the sayings that RuPaul, who's arguably the most famous drag queen in the world, has made famous is, "We're all born naked and the rest is drag." Has anyone heard that phrase before? She's turned it into a whole song. It's a great song. In other words, that though the art of drag was originally mostly understood as men dressing like women, at its core, the art of drag is about all of the ways that we dress ourselves, all of the ways we style ourselves, all the ways that we move and talk and act, that all of those ways are a gender performance. And there's nothing natural or inherent to any particular version of masculinity or femininity or any other gender expression. We're all born naked, and we can choose to go high femme with our bodies. We're all born naked, and we can choose to show up lumberjack chic. We are all born naked, and we can choose to play with however we want with our gender, from moment to moment, wearing glittery eyeshadow and cargo pants, or a crew cut and a pair of high heels, or any other combo that suits us at any given moment. The art of drag holds that gender is a performance at its core. And by putting a spotlight on that performance and making it fabulous and making it beautiful and joyful and creative, it offers each of us, whether we choose to be a participant by dressing in drag ourselves or a spectator by just witnessing a drag performance, it offers all of us an incredible spiritual lesson. Drag can offer us a taste of true freedom. And for those of us for whom the world's expectations of how we express our gender is soul-crushing or imprisoning, drag is life-saving. Process theology tells us that we are in an ever-evolving dance of co-creating existence with the holy. And the simplest way that I've heard this described is by science fiction writer Octavia Butler. She writes, "All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change." And process theologians would tell us that because the holy is in and of itself about change and about creation, co-creation together, that creativity is at the center of all of our spiritual experience. Creativity is at its center. Bringing together the unique and the novel, combining things in new ways to help us see existence differently, to help us engage with our lives afresh, that this is some of the most meaningful work that we can do in our lives. That this is how life regenerates. This is how life forms diversify around the world. This is how love comes into being. This is what art is. This is what beauty is. This is even the underpinning of justice. Participating in the art of drag, whether as a performer or an audience member, is participating in a holy act of creativity and co-creation. It helps us move closer to that which is most meaningful in our lives. Can I get an amen? Amen. It helps us become the kind of change agents that can bring about the world that we need. And I'm very pregnant, so my anger is showing up as tears today. Tennessee passed a law recently, my friends, that essentially bans much of drag performance in that state. Yeah, boo is what someone just said in the sanctuary if you didn't hear that on the mic. At least 10 other states are considering similar laws. The law that they're trying to pass in Arizona would punish drag performers with at least 10 years in prison and a requirement that they register as sex offenders. Make no mistake, my friends, while proponents of these laws are saying that they are trying to protect children, in reality, they are trying to criminalize and erase queer people and queer communities. And yesterday, Texas became the 19th state to ban gender-affirming care for minors. Again, laws that are supposedly about protecting children are in fact putting children and their families at incredible, incredible risk. Laws designed to criminalize and erase families like mine and like many of yours. These laws are already creating a queer refugee crisis within our own country. And though the need to protect the privacy of the queer families who are fleeing conservative states remains of primary concern, and that's why we haven't talked about it much from the pulpit, I know I've already been involved in helping to organize support for families who are moving to Philadelphia from conservative areas, fleeing for their lives and for their children's lives. I imagine some of you might already be involved in some of that work as well. These are families like ours. If some of these laws were passed in our state, many of us would need to uproot our lives and become refugees in our own country. And the calls for support for this early queer refugee crisis are only going to get larger if these laws continue to be passed and implemented in other states. And so, my friends, this is my last Sunday with you before I go on parental leave for a few months. And it's so moving to hear you sing and to think about bringing your voices with me. And I will miss you deeply. But I'm going to charge us all with two tasks in the coming months. And frankly, it will probably be years. The first is participate in drag, my friends. Go to drag shows, go to drag brunches, go to drag story hours, go to drag quizzo, go to Pride celebrations today and in the coming weeks and months, whether you identify as LGBTQIA++ or not. Try out expanding the ways that your gender shows up in the world. And celebrate other gender expressions. See what kind of new holiness and creativity come into your life because of it. And when the call comes, this is the second charge, when the call comes for us to fight regressive laws, and when the call comes for us to provide support and aid for these queer families and individuals who are fleeing their home states and home countries as well, let's answer the call. Let us be a community who is known for our hospitality. Let us be a community who is known for our powerful voice for justice. Let us be a community that centers co-creation, holiness, joy, delight, and resistance. May it be so, and amen.
Over Memorial Day weekend, we were down the shore, and my daughter grabbed her great Aunt Bobby's sunglasses. And in her 2-year-old haste, she took the plastic frames and yanked them far apart to set them upon her ears as if her head were 4 times its size. This plastic was old and dried out, and it snapped. Fast and sure, splintering into small shards, rendering the sunglasses unwearable. Thank God for Bobby's patience and her penchant for drugstore shades, because she wasn't fazed in the slightest. But the crack of brittle plastic left an impression on me. We've all experienced that snap, that decisive break when plastic gives way, and we're left with something totally useless, just fragments of what had been. I like breaking their brains a little. That's what my friend TJ said when we talked about drag. I like breaking their brains a little, implying that our brains are kind of rigid. The way we think about gender and presentation of gender and embodying male and female and man and woman, it's all a little too inflexible. So fixed that it's breakable, brittle. Our brains can become like tired, dried out plastic, cheap, and only able to move in one direction ever so gently without snapping, without breaking. We've got to be willing to stretch them in all the ways, to expand them, to keep them dynamic and fluid amidst a world which wants us to operate in binaries, to operate in either or, to operate on the boring old straight and narrow. The art of drag serves to inject flexibility into a world that is so rigid it snaps in the face of stretch. It serves to create space to expand rather than to break or shatter into 1,000 pieces. It leaves us room for possibility instead of shards of trash. Drag introduces playfulness and humor and levity, key ingredients in longevity, key ingredients in surviving a world that is brittle and rigid and hurts when you bump up against the hard edges of it. Drag shows us that we're all dressing up all day, deciding each morning when we pick out a shirt or a skirt to present to the world a version of ourselves that works for us, that feels good for us, that fits. The comedian, poet, writer, and activist Alok V. Menon says, "One of the transphobic refrains is that people like me are just men playing dress up. But I would like to say we're all playing dress up because we're souls dressing up. The bodies are also dress up. Bodies come and go, the soul doesn't. So if we all take seriously the fact that we are all souls, then we can all have more fun with bodies, more fun with outfits, because we know that it's all just an approximation for something that's much, much deeper. This is what I love about drag. It is fun with teeth. It is playful with a razor's edge. It is teasing our most time-honored and treasured, hallowed ideas about how to conform, how to perform, how to go along to get along. It thumbs its nose with song and dance. It does it with sparkles and eyelashes and 6-inch heels. It demands we look so that we can look at ourselves, at the ways we are bound and tortured and confined by the rigidity of our own minds. That we are in danger of splintering our souls with the fixed approach to the world, how things ought to be. Drag is an invitation to laugh at ourselves and to receive a much-needed dose of inoculation. Medicine against a brittle heart, a broken brain, a life that hurts when you bump up against the hard edges of it. And so, to the drag artists out there, I extend a heartfelt thanks. I owe you a debt of gratitude for all of the ways you have helped me laugh and wonder at the absurdity of it all, the way I am invited to shimmy and dance my way through the crushing expectations of heteronormativity. So thank you, Cookie, RuPaul, Divide, Sasha Velour, Murray Hill, Bob the Drag Queen, Peppermint, and so many more. You are saving lives. You are saving my life from shattering into 1,000 useless pieces, one song and one dance at a time. Blessed be, and amen.
Hi, I'm Reverend Hannah Capaldi.
And I'm Reverend Abby Tennis. We are the ministers at the First Unitarian Church of Philadelphia, where our mission is to awaken love and justice in our lives and in the world.
We're so grateful that you watched, and we hope that the sermon connected with your soul.
We also want to invite you to join us for a live worship service every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You can always find the link to that service on our website at www.philauu.org. In these services, you'll hear words like you've just heard, and you also get a chance to greet one another, pray together, sing together, and we even hold a virtual coffee hour after services to get a chance to greet some new and old friends.
If you want to support the mission of this community and you feel moved to give, you can do so by going to the website that Reverend Abby just mentioned. You can find that link below, or you can text 215-709-5095 and follow the prompts to give.
If someone in your life needs to hear these words today, we encourage you to share this video. And again, thank you so much for watching.
We hope to see you soon.